So to repeat, why is the Democratic Party not appealing to voters more persuasively? Let me ask you that, Lizzie Dickerson.
Yeah, I was jumping up and down wanting to answer that because I've been doing a lot of doors and I've been talking to a lot of people who have been answering this very question. The Democratic Party is becoming more popular in many respects with folks, but it's messy. So some people are unenrolling because they're upset over what happened with Graham Platner. Some people are re-enrolling. They're upset because they feel that the Democrats are, and this is a quote from one of the people at my doors, just like the Republicans. All they're interested in is the money. They take the big money. They just do whatever the big money says to do. Now I'm just quoting what my constituents or people are saying. But I think that that's shifting with everything that's been going on with ICE, with everything that's been going on with the war. I think it's shifting. I think people are starting to say, listen, Democrats, if you can finally deliver on something here, we're willing to support you. But they're angry, they're disillusioned, but they are ready to throw in their support. We've just really got to follow through on the promises.
Dan Kleban, same question.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The reputation of the Democratic Party is in the toilet. And I think the reason it is because we've lost focus of being the party about kitchen table issues. That's what people, when I go down to the tasting room after a day at work, I have a beer at the bar, people don't come in talking about cultural issues. I mean, I think that's a red herring that's been thrust upon us and we take the bait every single time. What people come in and talk about is the fact that they can't afford the house, they can't afford a mortgage. They can't afford to put groceries on the table. They can't afford health care. They can't afford education. We need the party that starts talking about and focusing on those issues. Why aren't we talking about transitioning to a green energy economy where the cheapest energy comes from green energy to lower electricity bills? Why aren't we talking about childcare? As an employer, I understand how important, and as a dad, I understand how important childcare is. My wife and I had twins. When we just started the brewery, I wasn't paying myself. My wife was a nurse. We'd have to pass them off in the night because we couldn't afford childcare. I wouldn't see my wife sometimes for a week. Let's focus on childcare. Let's cut the cost. Let's raise the wages of our childcare providers. I mean, these are the kind of issues that care about, and these are the kind of issues that Susan Collins, she frankly doesn't even talk about.
All right, I want to jump in because your time's up. Ashley Webb.
I think the biggest issue, like with the ACA, we said that we were going to stand by that and we weren't going to vote and we were going to keep the government shut down until we passed it. Unfortunately, that got passed and a whole bunch of people got hurt in the process of shutting down the government. A lot of government workers, they didn't get paychecks while the government was shut down while they were saying we want to keep our ACA. And then the Democrats in office, several of them crossed the aisle and voted and took away the ACA credits. Now people are paying higher health care costs because of it. Some people losing their insurance because they can't even afford it. I think what the biggest thing we should do is when we say we're going to do something, we should do it, and we should stand by it and stay united as we stand by it.
And David Costello.
Yeah, I agree. Excuse me. We've got to deliver. I mean, we've got to deliver on all of the things that we've been supporting for 30 years, which is universal child care, universal health care, universal paid medical and family leave, the kind of federal programs, housing assistance, that will address the kinds of concerns that Dan mentioned that people come to talk about in his brewery. Because those are the concerns of average working and middle class families. We need to address those, and we can, because that's what the collective instrument that government's supposed to do. So it really is about providing Medicare for all eventually, bucking up the ACA until we get it. It is about universal child care. I've got 4 kids, so I know what child care costs are. It's like sending a kid to college when they're a toddler. So I mean, it's about housing and rental assistance. That's what people are concerned about. When Democrats start to deliver, then we will obviously get a lot more support. And I think we're going to win support anyway. We want to end the war. We want to abolish ICE. Paramilitary. We want to improve the elections in terms of making sure they're free and fair and secure, and obviously taking money out of politics. And green energy. I was helped to actually coordinated the state's Climate and Clean Energy Action Plan in Maryland. It was a leading plan. So, I mean, there's a lot we need to do, but if Democrats deliver, the support will follow.
Okay, thank you. Phil?
You just said you're for Medicare for all. Is everyone on this panel? Dan, no?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
It's incredible.
Just checking. Just checking. That's 8 for 8 with the candidates tonight.
It's
So
amazing.
I'm actually on Medicare.
Oh, okay. Well, there you have it. So let me ask the question then this way. We asked this in the previous panel. We're all here tonight because Graham Platner withdrew from the race last week. As you know, he had a lot of plans on health care, was advocating Medicare for all. He talked about tax reform in a number of ways, curbing corruption, defending democracy. Excited a lot of people with his enthusiasm and how he talked about those issues. I think we're up to you, Lizzie Dickerson. Tell me one idea that you recall from Graham Platner's campaign that you would embrace and pursue if you went to Washington.
Well, I mean, I think that it isn't so much about the ideas that he had, because he was talking about things that people have been talking about for a long time. He really didn't bring up a whole lot that was new. But I think that what happened is that he had a way of getting people excited about doing those things and about voting to support those things. And I think it's really important for us to keep people on board, that people realize that sometimes you don't get the win you think you're going to get, but that doesn't mean you give up. And so to me, what's really important is to be out there in the streets and in the communities, and that's why I'm doing this, because people really need to not give up. Just because you didn't get something that you thought you were going to get, we still have to fight.
Dan Kleban?
Yeah, Graham Platner was right. The system is rigged against hardworking Mainers. I was collateral damage of a rigged system. I graduated, I put my way through undergraduate and law school with the help of my wife. I graduated with $200,000 in student loan debt. The year after I graduated law school, I got laid off during the Great Recession, not because I did anything wrong, but because of greedy Wall Street speculators. My wife and I were wondering what we were going to do. I decided I was going to try to do something to show that business could be a constructive force for the state of Maine. So I built Maine Beer Company and provided, again, living wage, health care, giving back to the environment. But look down in D.C. right now. Susan Collins is D.C. You have congressmen, congresswomen engaged in insider trading. That needs to stop. They should not be able to trade individual stocks. All of their holdings should go into blind trusts. You have insiders, government officials betting on prediction markets, on foreign policy. How disgusting is that? And we have a president who's using the Oval Office as some sort of get-rich-quick scheme and bragging about the billions of dollars that he's stuffing into his pockets, his son's pockets, and his friends' pockets. And Susan Collins, she's taken, I just read the other day, taken money from 100 different billionaires for her campaign. Who do you think she's looking out for? I'm going to look out for you.
Ashley Webb?
Well, the biggest thing that I liked about his campaign was he talked about going after corruption and setting term limits for the Supreme Court. I believe that, that's one way to weed out the corruption. These candidates are becoming, and judges are becoming complacent, and they're just doing what corporations want. And I think that's the biggest issue is corporations run this company. It's not like individuals, and it's not our senators running it. Corporations call them up in the middle of the night, tell them what to do. That's what happened with the ACA. Bet you the airlines are angry that their airlines were getting shut down. And that's one of the reasons why I think going after the corruption, getting out of our politics is the best way they handle it.
David Costello, you shared a number of forum stages with Graham Platner. What do you take away?
I did, and Graham actually said he voted for me a few years ago. How's that? Well, actually, I was meant to be the change agent, the change candidate in 2024. And I argued then, and certainly Graham agreed, is that we need to change the system. Fundamentally, the most important thing is we've got to take money out of politics. If we're going to reform our governing practices and institutions, money corrupts everything, and disinformation now, but certainly money is at the core. And so I would very much support comprehensive campaign finance reform, public financing, reduced media rates for candidates who meet thresholds, certainly ban gerrymandering, ban the filibuster. Look at the United States Senate. The Senate structurally is obscenely undemocratic. That's why we've got a Supreme Court the way it is. It needs to be It needs to be revised. We need term limits in Congress as well as at the court throughout the federal judiciary, retirement requirements. There are so many reforms we need to undertake, and that's what I liked about what Graham was talking about as well, is the energy behind reform, transformation, transforming our government. But the most important thing, and I said this to him, if you really want it, because he always talked about mobilizing and organizing people, go after the money, because even Republicans are sick of the influence, the corrupting influence that money has, not only in our politics and government, but throughout our society. So I would say money is the biggest issue to address.
Thank you.